Detroit Lions fans, Detroit Den 313 back with another one. Steve and Will here. Listen, before we get going, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. And hey, I got the sauce from Steve today. I had to keep bugging him to tell me what's going on. So members helmet or super members helmet. I know who it is, and Steve told me not to tell you guys, but I am going to give you guys a hint. He plays for the Detroit Lions. Anyways, we're going to be talking some Detroit Lions content. I'll let Steve give you the business. Steve, talk to the people. Let them know what's going on.
I'll tell you this. For those who stick around at the end of the show, I'll show you what we're going to give away. I'll show you both things we're going to give away. If that doesn't incline you to become a Super Den member for the memorabilia, I got something for the Loyalty Den people as well. So we'll talk about that at the end. We'll get into today's show. Will, I think there's a guy on the Detroit Lions that's flying so far under the radar that I think people have completely forgotten about him. A kid who was drafted just a month ago by the Detroit Lions, Dominic Lovett. I have not seen his name pop up on much, haven't seen any chatter, haven't seen anyone talking about it. And I'm thinking, did they forget about Dr. Love? Because I think he's going to be a potential gem for the Detroit Lions. Well, how do you initially feel about D-Love?
Hey, Dominic, I've been calling him Dominic, gotta love it, man. But I love him, man. When we drafted him, I was like, ooh wee, because watching a couple of Georgia games, he made a few plays. So I was like, ooh wee, I kind of like that pick 7th round. A lot of times, man, I'll be honest, we're choosing people in the 2nd round. I have no clue who they are. So the fact that we were drafting somebody and I immediately knew who they were and could reference them playing in football games was one thing that I was kind of like, okay, I like that. But then doing some more digging into him and understanding that he had a 5th round projection and we're getting him in the 7th round. This is a guy who had a potentially develop into a starting caliber player grade, and we're getting him into the 7th round or in the 7th round. That excites me a lot, Steve. So initially my thoughts are Brad just being Brad, finding starting talent in the 7th round.
So let's start with this Detroit Lions roster is loaded. We've talked about it from, a couple of weeks ago. We talked about, some of these undrafted free agent guys got to climb uphill. I think it's the same story with some of these guys drafted in the later rounds, like a Dominic Lovett. I think he's got better odds because he was drafted. The team, invested a tiny little bit more into him, but it's not to say that he's guaranteed to make the team. I think it helps his case, but who are we going to be looking at him battling with is what I like to look at. So what's he going to be doing? How can he guarantee himself to make a spot on this team? To me, I think it's being versatile, not just playing wide receiver. As a 7th round pick, you probably got to do a little extra. You probably got to put in a little overtime with some special teams play as well. So who's he going to be competing with starting in training camp to really get a job, Will?
First things first, I'll say he gives me Khalif Raymond vibes. I don't think that he's necessarily competing with Khalif per se. I think that he needs to show that he has Khalif potential, but that's who he gives me vibes of. 5'10", 190 pounds, 187 pounds, if we want to be exact. Shifty guy who can make catches in short yardage and make big plays down the field. Literally, to me, a Khalif Raymond type of clone. A little bit taller. I think Khalif is 5'8", but just like a clone of Khalif, man, but younger and cheaper. And when I look at his game, man, I think he doesn't offer as much in the return game, but what he does offer that I think Khalif doesn't is that gunner situation. So I think that initially he'll be competing with some of the DBs that are later undrafted free agents that can play that gunner position and all the special teams guys, because that's how he's going to make this team. He's not going to make this team by just being a receiver in the receiver room. Like we're too deep. We're too stacked. It's going to be tough. It's going to be an uphill battle getting in that receiving room. But if he can offer a help on special teams, he can buy himself some time to earn a right to get some time. And then if people get banged up, you never know. But I don't think that he's a guy that you can put on the practice squad. You put him on the practice squad, I think somebody grabs him immediately.
Why is it you don't think he can be offer much in the return game? Because that's kind of where I was thinking maybe he could really shine is in the return game. And that's kind of where I was headed with Khalif Raymond. I know that's his job. He's got that locked down as the kick returner. And I'm not trying to say that Khalif Raymond's like an old man and belongs in the nursing home, but he is going to be north of 30 when the season starts. Yeah. So we got a younger kid who I think you're right is a clone, but I was a little surprised you said don't see him offering much in the return game. Why do you think that?
Just because over his college career, he's only returned, I think, one kick, and I think it was for -4 yards. It was either a kick or a punt. So I mean,
Hey, he might have had one bad day. Will, come on, cut
yeah,
him a little slack now.
yeah. So it's just not something that he's shown on tape, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if in his two stays, because this is a guy that's been just jumping around SEC schools. Started off at Mizzou, right? And that's where he got his relationship with Dennis Rakestraw. So he's got a little ties to some of these Detroit Lions. And then stayed 2 years there and then jumped off to the Georgia Bulldogs. Go
Go
Dogs.
Dogs.
Yeah. So jumped over there and was productive, man. This is a guy that was productive all 4 seasons, played a lot of games. I think he played 13 games as a freshman, 26 receptions, 180 or 178 yards. And then 2022, Steve, this dude went crazy in 2022. 2022 is really what excites me about Dominic Lovett. 2022, we're talking 56 receptions, 846 yards, and 3 tutties, man. He was electric. He had a bunch of plays over 40 yards. He had multiple 100-yard receiving games. He was a dude in 2022. Transfers to Georgia 2023, and still does more of the same, man. Pretty much mirroring seasons. 50 receptions, 2023, 2024, 600 yards, 4 touchdowns in 2023, 6 touchdowns in 2024. Led the Georgia Bulldogs in receptions. This is a dude that can be a productive receiver. So that's why I say he reminds me of Khalif in the receiver 3 receiving game, but his history returning punts and kicks, only having one for -4 yards. It just, when I look at it, it's like, I just can't say that he can offer something, because he's got to beat out Khalil Dorsey too. If Khalil Dorsey makes this team, I think you have him return kicks before you have this guy who doesn't have a lot of experience doing it. And then I'm probably going to go with the safety guy that they put back there, and Craig Reynolds. Sometimes they put Craig Reynolds back there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair. If his resume says that 1 catch for -4 yards on his punt return, if that's on your resume, it's kind of like saying, "Hey, I'm going to work at Ace Hardware, and I was a cashier at my last job, and I always had money missing out of the register." It's not a good look. But maybe if Dan and Brad and special teams coach Phip see a little something, and they get him some return reps and some training camp, maybe something we could keep an eye on going forward. But Khalif Raymond is, I don't want to bash Khalif. Khalif's one of my favorite players on this team, but when I just look at his stats, like in 2024, 17 catches, is that something that's impossible for Dominic Lovett to duplicate? 17 catches for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think that Lovett can do something similar to that as a rookie, especially on a team that's deep at wide receiver. A kid who's going to be fighting for reps. He's really going to have to do something in training camp to stand out just to make the team. But when I look at Khalif, I know I think there's like some type of cult in Detroit that people just lock on to Hendon Hooker, and they just believe in him through thick and thin. And I think that there's a smaller like sub cult to Khalif Raymond, where people think that he's just going to be with the Detroit Lions until the end of time. And I don't agree with that, because I love Khalif Raymond. I think he's a veteran leader. I remember watching the show on Netflix with Amon-Ra St. Brown, receiver. And after he got snubbed from the All-Pro team and the Pro Bowl, Khalif kind of pulled him to the side and was kind of, mentoring him a little bit. So that's kind of when I started to really, really start enjoying watching Khalif Raymond play football, knowing that what he does in the locker room. But when you just look at his stats, he's not really like a game breaker. He's just a kick returner. He'll get a couple sneaky catches here or there. I don't think it's impossible for Dominic Lovett to steal his job. But what Khalif has on his side is the experience. We're just going to keep talking about, we said the same thing with Graham Glasgow in the guards that we drafted in this draft. Graham Glasgow will always have 10 or so years of experience on his side versus a rookie coming into the NFL day one. So Khalif does have a heads up on him, but I think it's a close battle. And I get it, man. People love Khalif Raymond. He's just a quiet guy. You never really hear much about him. He's never going to do anything bad. But, if we're talking about fighting for jobs, I think Khalif's probably somewhere down that bottom tier of guys who, hey, man, what can you offer me that another rookie can't do for cheaper and I have on the team for longer? And it's just a recipe that we're going to have to start looking at, because we're talking about people making this team, and it's going to be hard. So I think Khalif's, I'll probably say it, and a lot of people might not like it, but I think he's at the bottom of the list. I don't want to say chopping block, but he's like one step above the chopping block to me.
I think he's only got one more season on this deal, so he's definitely on the chopping block for me, because now we got to negotiate a contract with him we want to keep him around after this season. When you think about that, why do I want to do that if Dominic Lovett can be comparable and I can just keep him for the next 4 years?
And he's
I
22
mean,
years old.
yeah, you know what I mean? So it's kind of a no-brainer, but I'm hoping that they figure out a way to keep Khalif and keep a guy like Dominic Lovett, because I think the upside could be tremendous. He's a guy that I foresee starting in the NFL as a receiver 3, and so I like his mentality too, and I like what Kirby Smart said about him. As I look here in my notes, Kirby Smart described him as a leader. He said he makes an impact on and off of the football field, and he has a tremendous big playability as an opportunity, or when he gets his opportunity, he normally makes it count. So Kirby Smart is a tough coach, man. He doesn't just give away. He's kind of like Nick Saban. He's not one of those guys that just gives away a ton of compliments, and he doesn't get guys from the transfer portal often. Georgia's got, for lack of a better word, dogs everywhere.
Dogs.
Yeah. They got them everywhere. So they're typically not looking for people out of the transfer portal. Dominic Lovett went crazy in 2022. And, I got loyalty issues, Steve. Got loyalty issues. So I had to do some digging like, hey, why did Dominic Lovett want to get into that transfer portal? What was going on with that? He had a tremendous season in 2022. I loved his answer, man, when I heard him talk about it. He said, the bottom line was I wanted to go somewhere that was going to challenge me and prepare me for the next level. I knew that the Georgia program would have the coaching, the nutrition, and even the academics that I needed to go to the next level. So he said that when he first got there, it was a culture shock. It wasn't like Mizzou. The expectations were way higher. Kirby Smart was on his ASS. He wasn't messing around. He told him he was out of shape. And he had to up his game to prepare to be out there for the Georgia Bulldogs. But 2023, what did we see? We seen him be productive. We seen him get 50 receptions and 600 yards, and then we seen him follow that up in 2024 with the same thing. So this was a guy who immediately entered himself into that Georgia room, got the playbook down, and was productive immediately. Coming to a program like that, it is not easy to join the program late, learn everything, and be a starter day one. Is something that he did. So, man, so I tip my hat to him.
William, that's the reason he transferred. What you just said might be true, but it's a fancy phrase for just saying my quarterback at Mizzou was trash. I want to go play with Carson Beck and try to get into the NFL. Okay. Like, I know Carson Beck, we'll talk about him probably next year. He's a draft possibility or a draft candidate for the Detroit Lions. I wouldn't, I don't want to get too far into that, but maybe, who knows? I don't know. But Carson Beck's probably a first-round pick. I think that's probably why he looked to transfer. Like, hey, if there's a chance I can get on the field and have a better quarterback play, Kirby Joseph, a little hint for later. Kirby Smart is a guy who's just he's like Nick Saban, just putting guys in the NFL hand over fist.
Yeah, I was just gonna say at the time he didn't know who the quarterback was going to be. They hadn't made a decision yet. So, but I agree. I'm sure it didn't hurt once he found out who it was going to be, and the projections were there for sure. So
let's just take a little peek ski. Detroit Lions projected 2025 depth chart. Like, here's just wide receivers. Amon St. Brown. Think he's going to make the team, Will?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Bubble guy.
Yeah. Possible date, like late. He might get added to the team. Possibly. I don't know. Don't count on it. Jameson Williams, same category. Probably going to make this team. Tim Patrick, probably going to make this team. Tesla, he's going to make this team. So I look at some of these other guys here. Dominic Lovett, Khalif Raymond. Don't sleep on Ronnie Bell. We might do an episode on him pretty soon. I don't want to talk too much about him, but I put him in the same category for me anyways as Dominic Lovett. Tom Kennedy, he's a junkyard dog. Preseason Hall of Famer. Build the statue. Just looking at our depth chart, like, we're pretty set at wide receiver. So when we're talking about how many wide receivers are we going to be keeping, I don't know. Do we take an extra wide receiver versus cutting an extra secondary player? I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but these are some of the people that I see competing with Khalif Raymond, Dominic Lovett, Ronnie Bell. I'd like to talk about him later, but just this depth chart, it's deep. I don't see a for sure way for him to make this team. So he's going to have his work cut out for him.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I just feel like after he did that presser, man, I was like, okay. It reminded me, this is a guy out of St. Louis, Missouri. Who else is from St. Louis, Missouri? None other than the J-Mo. Waymo! Hey, the connections are there. And I feel like that goes into another part of why Brad drafted him. Not because of the connections per se, but because I truly believe that Brad not only does all of the scouting and with him and his team, and they watch all of the film and they go see guys. But I believe Brad Holmes run his business like, hey, to get to the Detroit Lions, now you need a couple references. Like we got to go contact a couple references. And when I can go say, hey, listen, Jameer, what do you think about this guy? Hey, listen, Ennis, what do you think about this guy? Hey, yeah, that Brian Branch guy is pretty good, man. You know what I mean? So when we can go make contact with these guys and say, hey, what do you think about this guy? What were they like? You find out even more. We always talk about, hey, who's that guy's third grade girlfriend? Was she in the prayer group or was she still in snacks? What is she doing, man? I didn't know what was going
doing
on.
both. Who knows? Snacks and prayer.
Yeah,
Thoughts and prayers,
Yeah, was she wilding out at nap time? I need to. They're digging, man. They're digging into all of this stuff, man. With that, so I just think when I look at this thing, that's why this guy didn't fly under the radar and become an undrafted free agent. I'm a guarantee they got with Innocent said, hey, what do you know? And Tate Ratledge and all of these guys, when they get these clusters of guys, Iowa guys, Georgia guys, Bama guys, the Ohio State guys, I guarantee that they're talking and they're guys that rubbed elbows with these
shout
guys.
out for Michigan men here, Will. What are you doing?
The Michigan guys are automatic. They're going, that's the back door. They're going right to practice. Yeah, I mean, like he probably got a booth in Ann Arbor. Like, let's be for real. But
right,
yeah, man, they're going to check these guys out. Yeah. Yeah. So what was my man that did the Netflix show about
Connor Stallions?
Yeah, Stallions. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, Stallions probably giving them a rundown. You know what I mean? So, but for me, man, that's the bottom line. They did their research, man, and Dominic Lovett is going to be a steal. I think that he's a guy that sneaks in, makes his team. I think that you'll see him running down as a gunner initially, and that'll earn his way onto the field. I'm not even calling him a sleeper. Honestly, I expect them to find a way to keep him on the 53-man roster. So I think that it'll be probably a secondary guy that ends up being a casualty. I don't think that it'll be Khalif Raymond, but I think that Dominic Lovett is a guy that I'm booking to make the 53-man.
Yeah, and I just call him a sleeper because I feel like since the draft, no one's really been talking about him. Like he's just flying by, not really being mentioned. So let's look at his draft profile from the NFL Combine. 5'10", 185 pounds from Belleville, Illinois. This is what I like right here. His prospect grade, and this is just a projection. It's not a slam dunk guarantee, but will eventually be an average starter. If we're talking 2-3 seasons from now, Dominic Lovett is a possible for sure locked in wide receiver 3, depending on what the team does in the future. And he's just a starter. I think that we could be talking steal of the draft right there. And then if you just go down, you just look at his measurable stuff. 4.4 speed, like that sticks out to me. 1.53 10-yard split, good vertical jump for a kid who's only 5'10". Like I like all his measurables. He's got good game tape. I don't know how he landed in the 7th round. Like you said, he was a projected 5th round pick. So we're going to be talking some potential steal and some value there. So I just think, like I said, people are just forgetting about him because I think we did like the first 4 or 5 rounds of the draft. And then we just kind of said, oh, Dominic Lovett. Yeah. Like, this is a kid who could play a role on this team as either a special teamer or, if we have some injuries down the stretch and someone has to miss a couple games, he might be a guy that we could be paying attention to come like week 9, 10, 11 in the middle of the season. And we're a little hurt at the wide receiver position. If he comes in, hopefully I feel nice and comfortable. I don't really have that feeling yet since he hasn't taken an NFL snap, but when training camp comes around, he's someone I'm going to be paying attention to. What's he going to be doing? Is it special team stuff only? Is he going to get some reps at receiver? Who's he taking reps with? Who's the quarterback? Who's the other wide receivers he's matching up with on the field? He's someone I'm definitely going to have my eyes on.
Yeah, for sure, man. One thing real quick, I got a bone to pick with the NFL. I got to see who's right because I remember he did talk about it in the press conference, but the NFL's got him from Illinois and I got him from St. Louis. So I want to know who's right because I got him going to St. Louis Senior High School too. But NFL, if you're wrong, I'm gonna smack you.
Well, he could have been born in St. Louis and moved to Illinois. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Just guessing. Yeah, it could be. But one of the concerns that they did have about him, and I think this is worth talking about because I've seen a couple of different people talking about it being on different sides of the fence on Twitter. Some people are saying that the pick made sense to them. Some people are saying that they completely don't understand the pick. We should have went in a different direction. And one of the things that they highlighted was his drop issues. They said he had some drop issues. So that caused me to do some digging. You know what they mean when they said he had some drop issues, Steve? They mean that.
It means he dropped the football when it hit his hands? Is that what?
Yeah, but means? He had 10 drops, Steve. 10 drops over his 4-year career playing. 10 drops over. 2.5 drops a season.
How do you have
and
half a drop, Will?
Yeah, like this, you can't have one apparently. Like this is absolutely crazy. So if you don't know anything about drops, 10% is the if you got over 10% drops, then it becomes like an issue there. It's like, man, hold on, we got to really dive into the tape and take a look and see what's going on. We're looking at 7.8 drop rate. 5% is the benchmark. If you got 5 or under, they're considering you pretty doggone good elite. You're not dropping
Steve Perkins type hands. I get it. Yeah,
absolutely, exactly. Steve Perkins type hands with no gloves on. I will highlight that too. But 7.8% drop rate is where he falls into the window of. But when you watch the film, Steve, he's catching it over his shoulder. He's catching it bending and twisting and twirling. He's making all. So I think it's all types of circus catches. I think it's more of a concentration deal than it is a, hey, I just got butterfingers. You know what I mean? So the drops are a zero worry for me, especially after I watched that 2022 tape. He was getting wild in 2022. I will post it on my X. If you haven't seen it, a lot of people haven't seen that 2022 tape. As I went through it today, I was like, we got a dog. We got a dog. Like, there's no question. What he was doing in Georgia was cool. What he did at Mizzou in 2022, Blitnikoff finalist, he got busy, man. If we can get on the jugs machine with St. Brown, I think this guy can be productive.
If St. Brown makes the team, I don't know. But we also used to talk about drops with Jamison Williams. That's kind of been quiet for a couple of years. You know, you get to the NFL, start paying attention to those guys like St. Brown. Who can you learn from? Hit the jugs, learn a little technique. Not worried about that at all. Not even a little bit, William.
Yeah.
Anything else for tonight?
No, that's it, man. I'm excited to see what happens as training camp unfolds, man. See what cream rises to the top, because as Brad says, it's going to be a bloodbath, and I think he's correct. It's pretty much everywhere besides the quarterback position.
Yeah, I'm ready for these training camp dates to be announced. I think that's going to be coming soon, I would imagine, because I know we have that first Hall of Fame game, first preseason game, so I know we get an early jump on some training camp stuff. So I don't know when that's supposed to drop, but I would anticipate within the next probably like 2-3 weeks maybe. So, Will, you want to see what some of our giveaway stuff is?
Yeah, give me a little sneak peek.
Right. So did a little shopping today. I got something for our loyalty den members. You know, you guys are locked in to the jerseys and some other things that we'll come across. But I know I said the loyalty den members were going to choose their jersey, and I almost feel bad that I had to pick one, but I think it's a good one. Will, I think it's a good one. I think we got that new Jamison Williams black jersey. I had to get it. It was literally the last one on the shelf. It's like the guy knew I was coming, so I said, got to get that. Got to get that for our loyalty den members. We'll give that away as soon as we hit our Super Den member number. We're sitting at 26. 26, and you will be entered to win this beautiful Kirby Joseph inscribed helmet, 2024 All-Pro, 9 interceptions, certificate of authenticity on the back. We're sitting at 26. When we hit 30, if we do it tonight, we'll do a live show tomorrow and raffle that bad boy off, as well as the jersey, as well as something, a little gift card for our basic den members. Got all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
I just became a member from my burner account.
I don't know why you wouldn't. For this helmet. It's like, look at this. This is a nice looking blue. Like, I don't know what color I would classify that, but signed by Kirby. 2024 All-Pro, Kirby Joseph, 9 interceptions inscribed. Like I said, it's got the certificate of authenticity on the back. You can scan that, see that he actually signed it. Beautiful color, beautiful helmet. Looking for a home. We're sitting at 26. When we get to 30, we'll do another giveaway. And again, if you guys are on the fence or if you're thinking about it, I would do it sooner rather than later, because like I said, it could be as soon as tomorrow night, depending on how fast it happens. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, man, I don't know, it's right there. Don't miss out on it if you're thinking about it, or you might be too late. Stick around, hit that like button. We'll be back later with another show.